Ryan never expected his life to change with a single note. It was just another night at the diner where he worked, wiping down tables, dreaming about his big break in Hollywood. But when a man in a leather jacket slid an envelope across the counter and walked out without a word, he knew something was different. Inside, a single sheet of paper, no name, no details, just an address and 2 words: show up. Before we dive in, let me ask you, if Clint Eastwood invited you to a secret audition with no explanation, would you go? Think about it as you hit that subscribe button, because this story, it's unlike anything you've ever heard. Ryan debated all night. It could be a joke, a waste of time, or worse, a setup. But deep down, he knew one thing: real opportunities don't come with instructions. The next morning, he stood in front of an old factory on the edge of town. Rusted doors, broken windows, the kind of place where deals happened in shadows. This didn't feel like Hollywood. A handful of others were there, young, hungry actors, just like him. Before anyone could speak, the doors creaked open. Clint Eastwood stepped out. No introduction, no small talk, just a slow, assessing glance over the group. "Most of you won't make it," he said, voice sharp as a knife. "And that's fine. Hollywood isn't for everyone." Then, without another word, the doors slammed shut behind them. Ryan's heart pounded. This wasn't a normal audition. This was something else. A voice echoed over a hidden speaker. "First test. Silence. No speaking, no movement. 2 hours." Ryan's stomach tightened. No instructions, no script. Just the weight of the moment pressing down. A few contestants shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Another cracked their knuckles. Minutes passed. Then an hour. One by one, the others started breaking, twitching, sighing, fidgeting. But Ryan, he stayed still, focused. A buzzer rang. Eastwood reappeared, nodding slightly. Acting isn't about words. It's about presence. If you need to speak to control a room, you're in the wrong business. Half the group was already eliminated. Ryan was still standing. But this was just the beginning. Now, let me ask you, could you handle 2 hours of absolute silence under pressure? Or would you crack? Drop your answer in the comments, and stay tuned, because what happens next, it only gets more intense. The factory doors groaned as they slid open again. The remaining contestants barely had time to process what had just happened before Clint Eastwood stepped back inside, his gaze cutting through the tension like a blade. No congratulations, no explanations, just the next challenge. Without a word, he motioned for them to follow. Ryan's heart pounded as they stepped into a vast, empty warehouse. In the center of the room, an old wooden table stood with a single object resting on top, a loaded Colt revolver. Eastwood finally spoke. Most actors pretend. The great ones, they live it. Hollywood doesn't need another pretty face. It needs presence, confidence. You either have it, or you don't. He pointed at the gun. One by one, you'll pick it up, load it, spin the chamber, aim, and fire. No hesitation, no second guessing. Let's see who has the nerve. A chill ran through the group. This wasn't just about handling a prop. It was about proving you could control a moment under pressure. The first contestant, a tall guy with sharp features, stepped forward. He lifted the gun, his hand steady, until he went to spin the chamber. His grip faltered, and for a split second, his hesitation showed. Eastwood said nothing. But when the shot fired, the slight delay had already sealed his fate. Next, one by one, they went up. Some were too rigid. Some tried too hard. But Eastwood didn't react until it was Ryan's turn. He stepped forward, exhaling slowly. His fingers brushed over the cold metal as he picked up the revolver. He wasn't the strongest, the tallest, or the most experienced. But he knew one thing. Acting was about control. With smooth, deliberate movements, he loaded the gun, spun the chamber, and lifted his arm. His eyes locked onto the target. No fear, no hesitation. The gun fired. The echo rang through the warehouse. For the first time, Eastwood nodded. Not bad. Ryan felt his pulse spike, but he kept his expression neutral. The group was smaller now, only 4 left. And Eastwood's test, far from over. Now, let me ask you, if you were standing in that warehouse, could you handle the pressure? Could you take the shot? Drop your answer in the comments. And stay tuned, because what happens next, it's even crazier. The air inside the warehouse was thick with tension. Only 4 remained. Clint Eastwood paced slowly, his boots echoing with each deliberate step. No words, just presence. The kind that made you feel like the room was closing in. Then, without warning, he stopped. Acting isn't about saying the right words, he said, voice calm but firm. It's about owning a moment, controlling the space. He turned to them, eyes sharp as ever. Next test's simple. You get 1 shot to take the stage. No script, no direction. Make me believe you belong here. Ryan's stomach clenched. This was the moment that separated actors from legends. No costumes, no special effects. Just raw, unfiltered presence. The first contestant stepped forward. A woman with a confident stride. She paused, inhaled, then launched into an emotional monologue, voice shaking with intensity. It was good, maybe even great, but Eastwood's face remained unreadable. The next went up. He chose action over words, storming across the space, using every inch of the room. But something was missing. Forced, unnatural. Eastwood folded his arms. Then it was Ryan's turn. He stepped forward, heart pounding in his ears. He had no speech prepared, no dramatic outburst ready. But then he thought back to everything Eastwood had taught them. Silence, presence, control. Instead of speaking, he stood still, letting the weight of the moment settle. Then, slowly, he pulled out the old revolver from the last test, spun the chamber, and locked eyes with an invisible adversary. No words, no explanation, just a story told through movement, through intensity. The warehouse felt smaller, the tension real. Click. He lowered the gun, took a slow breath, walked away. Silence. Then, finally, a sound. One slow clap, then another. Eastwood smirked. Now that was acting. Ryan felt his chest tighten. He had done it. But just as the relief started creeping in, Eastwood raised a hand. One final test, he said. And this one. It's the hardest. Now let me ask you, if you had 1 shot to prove yourself, would you take it? Or would you crack under pressure? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't go anywhere, because what happens next, it's the real test. The room felt different now, the air heavier, the tension thicker. 3 contestants left, each standing in silent anticipation as Clint Eastwood took a slow step forward. His face, as unreadable as ever, gave away nothing. But the way he measured them, his eyes scanning every movement, every breath, said everything. You've all proven something. He finally spoke. But the real test, it's never what you expect. He paused, looking from one face to the next. Acting isn't about pretending. It's about becoming. It's about showing up, even when the script isn't written for you. So, here's your final challenge. He motioned toward a door at the far end of the warehouse. Outside is a full film set. No crew, no script, no direction. Just you and the story you create in the next 30 minutes. 1 take. No reshoots. You either deliver something real, or you don't belong here. Ryan's stomach twisted. No script. No preparation. How was he supposed to just create something out of thin air? But as the other 2 contestants hesitated, doubt flickering in their eyes, Ryan remembered something Eastwood had said earlier. The great ones. They don't wait. They make the moment their own. One by one, they stepped through the door. What lay beyond wasn't just any set. It was a full-scale recreation of a western town. Saloon, dusty streets, wooden storefronts. It looked like something straight out of an Eastwood classic. A single camera was set up on a tripod. A countdown timer flashed on the monitor. 30 minutes. The first contestant hesitated, pacing as he muttered to himself, trying to figure out a scene. But the time ticked away fast. He finally delivered a rushed, unfocused monologue, clearly unprepared. The second stepped up. She had confidence, swagger, and energy. But it felt rehearsed, like something she had memorized from an old film. Nothing original, nothing alive. Then it was Ryan's turn. He took a slow breath. No script, no rules, just story. He stepped onto the street, feeling the grit beneath his boots. He wasn't playing a cowboy. He was one. His fingers brushed against the revolver holster at his hip. A slow exhale. He turned to face the empty saloon doors, narrowing his eyes as if someone was just behind them. His hand twitched. A slow, deliberate step forward. He could hear it now. The creak of the wooden planks, the distant sound of wind whistling through the quiet town. His heart pounded, but not with fear, with something else. Conviction. Then, without a word, he moved. A full scene unfolded, not pre-planned, not rehearsed, just instinct. He played it with his body, his movements. A man facing his past. A showdown that never needed words. The tension built, the silence screaming louder than dialogue ever could. And then, with a final breath, he turned and walked off, the dust kicking up behind him. One take, one moment, and it was over. Ryan turned back, expecting nothing, but as he did, Clint Eastwood stood at the edge of the set, watching. The old legend nodded, just once. Approval. The test was over. And Ryan, he had passed. Now, let me ask you, if you had one take, one shot, to prove you belong, could you do it? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this story gave you chills, hit that subscribe button. Because this is just the beginning. Ryan stood frozen, the weight of the moment settling into his bones. The town was silent. The test was over, but his mind was still racing, still processing what had just happened. Had he truly passed? Had he proven himself? Or had he just stumbled into a moment that looked like victory, but meant nothing at all? Eastwood's nod had been subtle, a mere flicker of approval, but in this world, a nod from a legend meant everything. Yet, as the dust settled around his boots, Ryan knew better than to let relief wash over him. Because in Hollywood and life, one victory didn't mean the war was won. A slow clap echoed from the shadows. Ryan turned, expecting to see one of the remaining contestants, maybe even Eastwood himself. But instead, a tall man in a dark suit emerged from the saloon, eyes hidden behind reflective sunglasses. There was something about him. Something unreadable, something powerful. "Not bad, kid," the man said, his voice smooth, controlled. "But Eastwood's approval isn't what you're after, is it?" Ryan swallowed hard, shaking his head. "I want to make movies. I want to prove I belong." The man smirked. "Then let's see if you can handle the truth. Follow me." Without another word, he turned and walked down the deserted street. Past the old storefronts, past the set's boundaries. Ryan hesitated, glancing back toward Eastwood, who hadn't moved. But the legend didn't call him back. He simply watched, his arms crossed, as if silently daring Ryan to take the next step. So Ryan did. He followed the man past the false fronts of the town, past the constructed reality, and into the unknown. The landscape shifted from the illusion of Hollywood to something real. Dusty hills, raw earth, an old black car parked under the shade of a lone tree. The man stopped beside it, pulling a cigarette from his pocket, but not lighting it. Instead, he studied Ryan, as if deciding whether or not he was worth the next words. "You think passing Eastwood's test means something?" he asked. "It doesn't. Not yet. It just means you had a moment. But moments fade. What matters is what you do next." Ryan tensed. "What are you saying?" The man finally looked at him directly, and in that instant, Ryan understood. This wasn't just some observer. This was someone who knew. Someone who had seen men rise and fall in this industry. Someone who had been on both sides of the game. Hollywood doesn't need another actor. It doesn't even need another filmmaker. It needs someone willing to bleed for the craft. Someone who doesn't just survive one test, but keeps proving themselves over and over until the world has no choice but to take notice. Ryan's pulse pounded. "And what happens if I fail?" The man flicked the cigarette away, never having lit it. "Then you become like the rest of them. A story nobody ever tells." Silence stretched between them. Then, without another word, the man opened the car door, slid inside, and drove off, leaving Ryan standing alone in the desert heat, his heart thundering in his chest. This wasn't the end. It wasn't even close. Because Eastwood's test, that had just been the beginning. Now, let me ask you, if success meant proving yourself every single day, would you still chase it? Or would you walk away? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this story lit a fire in you, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, what happens next? It's even bigger. Ryan stood alone in the desert heat, the dust from the black car still settling in the dry air. His mind raced. The weight of the man's words lingered like a challenge he wasn't sure he was ready for. "You become like the rest of them. A story nobody ever tells." He clenched his fists. No, that wouldn't be him. He turned back toward the film set, half expecting it to have disappeared like some mirage. But it was still there, silent, waiting. At the far end, Clint Eastwood remained exactly where Ryan had left him, arms crossed, watching. Not with approval, not with expectation, just watching, like he had been all along, measuring something deeper than talent. Ryan walked back, his legs heavy, his heart pounding. The two other contestants were gone. No words, no explanation. Had they been cut? Had they walked away? It didn't matter. All that mattered was that Ryan was still here. Eastwood finally spoke. "So, what did you learn?" Ryan exhaled, every muscle in his body tense. "That this isn't about one moment. It's about showing up, over and over again, until there's no choice but to recognize you." A flicker of something in Eastwood's gaze. Approval, maybe, or just acknowledgement. Good. Because Hollywood? It doesn't care about one great scene. It cares about what comes next. Always. A silence stretched between them, the weight of the test settling. Then Eastwood reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card. He held it between two fingers, offering it without a word. Ryan hesitated for only a second before taking it. A name. A number. A direct line to a producer who could open doors Ryan had only dreamed of. "This isn't a guarantee," Eastwood said. "It's an opportunity. And if you waste it, don't bother coming back." Ryan swallowed hard. "I won't." Eastwood gave a slow nod, then turned and walked away, leaving Ryan standing there, gripping the card like it was the most important thing he'd ever held. Because it was. His chest tightened, but not with fear, with something else. Determination. He had passed the test, but the real work, that was just beginning. Now, let me ask you, if you were given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, would you be ready? Or would you waste it? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this story lit a fire in you, hit that subscribe button. Because this is just the start.